Okay, so as a preliminary matter, I am Brian Colleran, Chair of the Newberry Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. Conservation Commission members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Ben Gahagan.
Affirmative.
Brad Duffin, I believe not present and won't be. Dan Streeter.
Present.
Frank Wettenkamp.
Present.
Mary Rimmer, may appear later. Peter Pecos.
Also present.
Town staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Samantha Holt.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. So, good evening. This March 1st, 2022 open meeting of the Newberry Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which extends the Governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until April 1st, 2022. This order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference, and the recording will be available on the Newberry Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to the Commission members prior to the meeting for review and were posted to the Conservation Commission webpage for public access. Applicants or other representatives may be called upon to speak, and if needed, share information to the screen. Please state your intention after you've been called. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, as chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of Conservation Commission members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motion. Please hold until your name is called. Further, for all attendees, except Commission members and staff, please remember to mute your computer or your phone, *6 on a phone, when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking, or name and address preferably. If Commission members wish to engage in discussions with other members, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. Regarding public comment, there will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After Commission members have spoken, we will afford the public an opportunity to comment and or ask questions as follows. Samantha will seek questions and comments through the Zoom raise hand function. For video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the yellow hand that appears. If you don't see a yellow hand, click on the participants button. A list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of this participant area, you will see an option to click on a raise hand button. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the more function next to your name. For telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone's keypad. We will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hand in the order in which you're listed, which is determined by the order in which people click on the raise hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name or address and then ask a question or make a comment. I will afford the applicant participant or his or her representative the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. We will then continue down the list of those in the raise hand column and again afford the participant, applicant, or rep an opportunity to speak. Please note that the chat feature has been disabled for this meeting. Please also note that everyone is expected to conduct themselves in the same manner they would at an in-person meeting. Any disruptions will be addressed once by the chair and should be acknowledged by the disruptor. Any further disruption will result in complete removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Vulgar or obscene actions or comments will result in immediate removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call votes. Good. That. Moving on to where did I put the agenda? Too many windows. All right. So on our normal agenda, next regularly scheduled meeting dates are March 15th and then April 5th. We have an upcoming special meeting date of April 19th. We have minutes to approve for January 4th, January 20th, February 1st, and February 15th. Did anybody have a chance to look at, comment on, or otherwise engage with the minutes? You're muted, Ben.
Yep. Sam, I think that all of them need to have the members present.
Yep,
checked off.
when I save them as PDFs, I check all the boxes off. I have my notes that I keep with who's there for every meeting. So when I save them as a PDF to post them, I check those boxes off.
Okay. And then the only other thing I found was on the February 1st minutes. I think there's a copy paste you never finished off. And you have Peter LaRiviere as the applicant for 0 Pine Island Road.
Yes, I do. I did forget to do that.
Otherwise, all
Nice.
well.
Motion to accept minutes?
All
Second.
right.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Benjamin,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. Great. Well, and now, as we move into the rest of the agenda, as Sam noted in the beginning, I do have a series of notes distinguishing what is going on. So at the top of our list, as posted, is the town of Newbury at 81 Central Street, Central Street Fields. The file number stuff is NCC 389. It's a request for determination of applicability for work to remove the existing 5x10 steel plate used for brook crossing and replace it with an ADA compliant footbridge. It is continued. It has been requested to continue this until April the 5th. So.
Motion to continue to April 5th at 7 p.m. Oh, Sam, will that be an in-person meeting?
It will be. So as of right now, there have been no extensions for the emergency order. So we are all set to have to go back to in-person meetings starting April 5th. Our first meeting will be in the library common room on Lunch Street. So
Right.
we will not be upstairs. They're kind of going back and forth for the first couple months. So
Okay, April 5th, library, 7 p.m. Continue.
Can I still wear my pajamas?
No more pajamas.
Hey, Sam,
We need a second.
yes,
I think planning's still continuing in Zoom until June. Might want to check.
Wow.
Pete, there's been something in the legislature moving forward. So we'll see how that one goes. But I don't know if it's, what's going on there.
We even have to say location. I feel like somebody once told us we had to say it, but no. Okay, we'll continue to wherever we have
I
meeting
think
physically or otherwise.
I think it's just date and time.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, making this harder. April 5th, 7 p.m. I make a motion to continue.
Second.
Okay. Roll call. Benjamin,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
and Pete.
Yes.
I will also vote in the affirmative. So moving on, we have Josiah, I'm doing that wrong. Spalding Jr., 2 40th Street, DEP 050-1377. A notice of intent for the demolition of the existing single-story, single-family residential structure on a cinder block foundation and the construction of a new single-family residential structure on a pile foundation and associated site work. Sam, why don't you lead us off on this one?
Me?
Right? Isn't this the one with the story? Oh, wait, that's 10th Street. Sorry. I'm
Sorry,
looking at my numbered street.
Yeah, I think we have Matt from
Yeah,
Good
Millennium.
evening.
okay, good. Let's
Yes.
go ahead, Matt.
All right. So my
Sorry.
name is Matt Stein. I'm from Millennium Engineering. I'll share my screen with you so you can see the plan. Everybody can see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the site that we're talking about here is the lot that's on the corner of 40th Street and Northern Boulevard. It's a single-family, single-story residential structure currently built on a cinder block foundation. I have some photos that I'll show the commission in a moment that'll give you an idea of what the site looks like. The applicants originally approached the zoning board about deleting the property line between the two here and sliding the house closer together towards the center of the lot. They were told that they could not do that, so they've gone back to their default position, which is replacing the structure in the same footprint essentially as where the current structure is. So the proposal is to demolish this structure, completely remove it from the barrier beach, to then come in and drive a new pile foundation to support a new single-family home on piles. And the little depiction here on the right is just a section of the actual house design that was done by the architect here. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. So you can see that the intention here is for the new structure to be completely elevated to a minimum of 2 feet off the ground, all the way around. And in this particular lot is in the X flood zone, so we don't have any flood zone concerns here. By putting the new structure in the same footprint of what was originally there, we're minimizing the disturbances to vegetation. However, we are proposing some vegetation plantings in here. So I'm going to just zoom back out just a little bit here, and you can see that we are proposing some temporary disturbance here along the Northern Boulevard side, where we're going to bring in new utility services. So in the trenching for that there'll be some minor impacts there to vegetation. We calculated that at about 164 square feet. And then to mitigate for that, we are proposing to not only restore the area that's being temporarily impacted, but then to extend that planting around the back side of the building into this area here, for a total of 363 square feet of dune grass replication. And I'm going to switch screens just temporarily here, just to give you an idea of that area that we're talking about. This is a photo standing in between the two houses looking into the rear, and you can see that there's some areas in there that there's some, pretty healthy dune grass along the fence. And then there's some areas in here that look like they were planted but haven't really spread. And then as I come along, I'm going to move you guys' photos out of the way. As I come along here, you can see from the opposite direction here, the plantings are sparse to non-existent as you move to the left, to the back of the house. And so that's the area that we're talking about planting thickly with dune grass. And this area in here is a mixture of grass and gravel. It's been utilized historically for parking on, up along the side of the house here and along the front of the house. It's essentially, bricks and grass and gravel. And then as you move to the middle here, this is the parking area between the two buildings. And you can see that there's some scrub grass growing in there, but it's not a real healthy lawn because it's predominantly gravel that was there. And then the weeds have grown up through it. This yellow house that you have here, this is the applicant's current home. And so their intention is to keep both lots within the family and to actually move into the new structure once that's built. So this is the adjacent lot, but it originally was part of the project when we first were trying to delete the lot line between them. And so I got a few photos that I'm going to skip past. As a matter of fact, I'll go back to the plan. And Sam, just before the meeting started, I emailed you a copy of the butter notification and the legal ad, so you should have that for your file now.
Yes, I did get those. Thank you.
Yep. Essentially, this is a pretty basic project. We have very minimal vegetation impact. We do have restoration or mitigation for those impacts. We're also proposing a couple cinquefoil bushes or an approved alternative species up here along the front property line to make up for this like a I'm sorry, the applicants are on the line and they know the name of this, but there's a type of shrub there in the corner that's going to be disturbed. So we proposed a couple shrubs to replace those as well. Pretty straightforward. We're on the coastal dune, the barrier beach. We are not within, but we are adjacent to an area of estimated habitat for coastal wetlands, which is located considerably further down the road here, towards the neighbor's property adjacent to the yellow house. So we're a ways away from that area there. But we are adjacent to it. And so we do identify that as resource area in and around the area. And then again, we're in the flood zone X, which is an area of minimal flood hazard. Small 3x3 utility chase in the front here, the back corner, but in the front where it comes off on Northern Boulevard will be where the utilities come up. And you can see again from the section of the house here that we're maintaining a minimal distance under the structure. There's no intention of parking under it. There's no lattice work. It's wide open to allow for wind, water, and sand movement. Minimal stairs coming up, as this is a home that they intend to live in for some time, and they don't want to deal with, you know, really tall stairs and elevators and all kinds of other things that would be needed to get into a home that's much further or super elevated. That's pretty straightforward. DEP has issued their file number, and they at this point have had it for just about a month now and have not issued comments. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's go around the horn. Ben, what do you see? Anything on your mind?
I don't have anything on my mind at this point, Brian.
Okay. Daniel?
No concerns that I can identify right now.
Okay.
No concerns.
Pete, come on. You gotta have something.
Sorry, buddy, I'm good too.
Oh, this is terrible. Somebody needs to ask a question. This is bad form.
Well, I guess, Brian, the one thing do we have somewhere a full plan for the new house showing the 2 feet clearance? Right now we see I guess it'd be the western part of the plan view. What's happening?
This is just a section view to show that we're in compliance. Excuse me. What this shows here is that the average grade around the structure is 15.73, but the high contour, the highest point, which is in this back corner of the property, is 16, and that the intent is to be the bottom of steel at 18. So at this closest corner, we're at 2 feet. All the way around the rest of the structure, we're over 2. And I get spot grades throughout. You got a 15.4 over here, a 15.7 here, up front 15.9. So you can see, you know, as you head towards Northern Boulevard, that's where the ground's coming up. So this is the highest corner right here.
Yeah, I like that those details are there, Matt. Thank you. We just typically do see like a full profile view of the house. I don't know if there's one that you guys could supply.
Oh, absolutely. I think we have a full set of architecturals, but for the sake of maintaining space on this plan and not blowing it up to a 2-page plan, we just provided the section, but we do have a full set of architecturals that we can provide.
And what kind of bird do you have?
I have an African gray. I know he's noisy.
Yep, all good.
Hey, I have a question regarding the parking area. Where is the proposed parking area? And what will it be? What will the surface be?
So the existing parking, again, both of these lots are owned by the same family, the same people, as a matter of fact, not even the same family. It's the same 2 individuals, and they currently pull in here. You can see 40th Street is here. They pull in and they park currently in between these structures, and they'll continue to do so. But if for some reason they were to sell off this structure, the parking would be directly here in front where the stairs are. Given that the new structure is in the same footprint of the existing structure, the parking situation is not really exacerbated by the structure being put there. It's the same situation. We're not proposing any changes to parking.
Okay.
Actually, as a matter of fact, can you see on here where the dimension 20.2 is? There's a little outline here in the vegetation where you can see that was the original face of the old building. So we're actually sliding the building further back, which would accommodate for easier parking in front of the structure than currently exists today.
Okay. Anybody else before I pipe up? You guys good? Okay. I just want to know about sort of staging the construction. I presume there could be a lot of debris. There could be a lot of construction activity, deconstruction activity, sort of, workmen walking around. Where's the limit of work and where is the staging and where is the dumpster on the plan?
So they'll be utilizing the parking area where they have here now, again, between the two properties to stage any equipment or dumpsters that they'll need. There won't be a lot of debris because it'll all be taken off site pretty quickly. What we proposed in the narrative is the removal of all toxic materials, anything containing mercury, asbestos, glass, all that removed ahead of time. Then the contractor will come in and demolish the structure. That'll all get crushed up and thrown into a dumpster and hauled away. The foundation hole for the current foundation that's there, which isn't a very deep one. I'm assuming it's a crawl space under the structure, but it's essentially a cinder block foundation. That will be filled in with dune quality sand back to the original grades, matching on all sides around the old foundation hole. And then they'll come in and they'll, from, again, their property here, they'll drive the piles and start construction of the steel frame. They will at no time be allowed to block off the road. So all of that will have to occur from on the site here. And so that is essentially, the plan here as far as construction. We're not anticipating the need for dewatering or needing a construction entrance in order to wash off the tires in order to make sure the stuff, this is all beach sand. We're not dealing with a lot of loam and muddy material. So we're not seeing the standard details that we would normally put on a construction site that was inland. This is pretty straightforward, once that's all done. Now, we do have a note on the plan here that talks about pile location, is approximate, exact to be determined by the structural engineer. And then there is a note in the actual application. If I could jump down there real quick. So in all of our applications, we always include a preliminary construction schedule, as you see here. And in our preliminary construction schedule, we have a note in here that says that the contractor must contact the agent in order to schedule a pre-construction site walk to inspect any construction, fencing, or erosion control if required, and discuss any special conditions and or questions pertaining to the approval. We put that language in there because we know all construction starts with a pre-construction site walk. And in some cases on the barrier beach, it's not very evident where you usually wouldn't use erosion control. You would use some type of construction fencing to keep contractors off of existing healthy grass. So we put that note in there so that way when they're walking the site, you get a roll of that 4-foot tall orange construction fencing and with discussion with the agent on site at the time, they lay it out where they want it to make sure they protect those vital areas. Essentially, it's all scrub grass throughout, except for this dotted hatch pattern in the back here where the existing dune grass is pretty thick. And so we would envision seeing a line of that orange construction fencing running right along that existing well-established grass that's there.
Okay, so then my question to the rest of the commission, do you want to see all of this drawn on visually, or do you just want Sam to sort of condition it so that, the various features that, we just mentioned are demarcated accordingly during the pre-construction site walk, just because normally, especially out on the island kind of stuff we've been putting on plans. What's the will of the board here?
I think that's a reasonable request.
So Frank, you're saying go for the visual?
Yes.
Okay. Any other thoughts, feelings, input?
Matt, going back to the approximate placing of the pilings, do you think the plan is accurate about the number of pilings?
I think it's actually, we draw them probably more than what's needed as kind of, as this is the extreme amount, some of these are spaced probably, a little closer than they need to be, and this could be minimized. So we show it as this is the maximum potential impact, and then what we end up with is hopefully something smaller when they actually do the design and realize they can eliminate some of these piles.
And you said these are gonna be metal driven piles? Steel beam, is that what it was?
Josiah, I know you're there. Do you know, have you spoken with your contractor to determine the type of pilings, if they're going to be steel driven or wooden?
They are steel,
So the H beam or the I beam, steel driven.
correct.
Okay, Ben, you good there?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. So then back to Frank's comment, hearing nothing to the contrary. Matt, I think we'd like you to get the plans adjusted, to demarcate, the limit of work and where, the staging areas and the deconstruction, the dumpster is going to go basically. But other than that, it sounds like, nobody's really picking up on anything they want to talk about.
Okay. We don't have any problem adding that stuff to the plan. We can add the erosion control line or construction fencing line, whichever you'd prefer. Again, I don't think erosion control is really useful on the beach when the intent is we want the sand to move around. So we can add that to the plan. We can go a dumpster location. I don't see any type of stockpiling issue here. That's not going to be necessary, so we don't need to show that. But dumpster location, staging area, we can identify on the plan here.
And Matt, maybe
Yeah,
identify.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Ben.
I was gonna say, maybe going back to Frank's other comment too, it'd be good to have the driveway spot and potential material identified as well.
Again, I can try to do so. Again, the driveway really isn't a driveway. It's just a big gravel area.
Right.
We identify it.
Bad
Gravel.
word choice. Potential parking spot.
Right. So yeah, and we show it on this plan. Over here is existing, so it would just be to remain. It would be the same. So we can add that a note on here as existing parking to remain.
Yep.
Okay.
It would overlap though, because
And
the same area that we use for staging in the end would ultimately be used for the parking.
Perfect. Thank you. I see Josiah's hand is up.
yeah, I was gonna say that.
It is up. I don't know if you can hear me, but I just want to remind everybody that nobody's lived in the existing dwelling for at least 15 years. So it's basically a tear down. That's all I wanted to say.
If I missed that detail, I apologize.
What did you say?
Oh, I
Excuse
said
me?
I didn't hear that said earlier. I'm sorry if we missed that.
So it's no one has lived in this house for 15 years, and we have owned this property for a lot of years. We've lived at four for 10 years, and so nobody's there, and the house is down to the studs. So in the inside, and so it's really basically a tear down. I just wanted everybody to know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that, yeah, just to explain my potential concern about the parking spot, and maybe Frank's, was that if you're going to own two properties and if you have guests or you do an Airbnb situation, something like that, then, okay, I see the head. You know, it's just like,
Nobody's living there but us and family.
okay, perfect. Well, I mean, whatever, you have your kids and families and, you know, if you have to park an extra car somewhere, it's good to have.
Our kids know that this is what we have wanted to do for a lot of years, and we're trying to make sure that we can do what we want for the next 50 years. And in the hopes that we're not just a little island at some point all by ourselves.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey, Sam, just out of curiosity, is parking on the island part of our jurisdiction?
No, but the important thing, I guess, that the Spaldings are trying to get across here is that what they're building is actually smaller than what's there now. In the end, the parking situation doesn't change. In the end, all we end up with is a smaller structure on the same lot that's elevated, that meets flood requirements, that meets dune performance standards. So in every way, we are actually improving the situation here. Through the zoning process, the Spaldings reached out to all their neighbors, and they actually got letters of support from all the adjacent neighbors. And that was with them moving the structure. So, you know, ideally, you know, they would have preferred to do that. But neighborhood is all in favor of this home, which, as Mr. Spalding said, is a tear down. It's been run down, and it's an eyesore. They'd like to see it all gone and this new home built. So I'm again happy to add those things to the plan. So we're talking identifying the parking areas, identifying the dumpster location, and showing the construction fencing along the back. Those three items, does that essentially cover everything?
I may have one other item that I'd like to, ask you about, Matt, is what about any sort of propane generator, any ground mounted stuff like that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I hit a button and my screen went away. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I thought I lost you for a minute. So we have water sewer coming off the front. And I believe the intent, we talked about the propane option of burying some propane, and they decided they weren't going to go that route there, that they were going to utilize some type of mini split system. Is that correct, Josiah?
That is correct.
So there won't be any type
But using propane for water.
So they would use propane, but they would be above ground. And we talked about the area here where the rear stairs were and putting them back here somewhere.
Or on the far right-hand corner, Matt, down there, correct.
Yeah, it's just, a lot of times that stuff is on the plan, and we're talking about adding other features.
Show the propane bottles.
Just if you know where it's going to go, if you put it on there, if you're making some changes, that'd be good. And
Absolutely.
If there's any, generator or something like that.
Nice. At this moment, we don't have a plan for a generator. We've now lived there 10 years, and the good fortune is that 240th and 440th, we haven't really lost power a lot. So it's not in the plans yet, Dan.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
The propane is something that they want, so we can add that as well.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Dan, that was a good catch. So then moving on, then simply speaking, do you all, and based on past practice, shall we let Sam sort of approve these edits, or do we want to bring them back at the next meeting for final confirmation?
I would suggest that you allow the agent to oversee that.
Okay, anybody else?
I agree.
Okay. Nobody is disagreeing. So Sam, just make sure all of that sort of meets spec, if you will. And with that, would anybody like to make a motion? Are there any special conditions I should double check? Nobody brought any up.
I'll make a motion to approve the plans that will be submitted with the revised items on it, and issue an order of conditions when Sam sees them and approves them. I think that I had one too many approves, but sure.
Before that's seconded, do we have any public comment at all? Like, did I miss that?
Yeah, thank you, Pete.
Well, yeah, no, I did skip that. You're right. Good reminder. Let's see, anybody in the audience, hands up in the air, waving madly at the screen. Don't see any hands.
Not seeing anybody who looks like they have any
Hardly seeing any
questions.
video.
I would second the
Thank you,
motion.
Pete.
I would second the motion then.
Okay, roll call. Benjamin,
Yep.
Daniel,
Yes,
Frank,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Sure thing. All right, so what is up next? The next thing we have Peter J. La Riviere, 7 and 17 Marsh Avenue, DEP 050-1374, an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to confirm boundaries and any associated buffer zones for wetland resources on site. This is continued from February the 1st.
Yes, this
So,
is Sam Colombo speaking, also with Millennium.
Where are you?
I'm sorry, I can't add him to the spotlight, but he is here.
Can you guys hear
Yeah,
me?
I mean, I see him. Yeah, we can hear you. I just, yeah, you're kind of disembodied for Zoom.
Oh.
Is a funny way to put it. Anyway, go on. Thank you.
Okay, so as Brian mentioned, this is a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. I can share my screen. Just one sec. There we go. All right, can everybody see that?
Yep.
So just a reminder, the wetlands were delineated by Mark West. The commission, as well as myself, I believe, had a site walk on January 3rd. And I'm just going to quickly shoot through some of the changes made to this plan based off of comments during that site walk. So that should be easier on the blow up sheet here. So number one, the 100-year flood elevation or land subject to coastal storm flowage has been revised to follow the on-ground survey. We were previously showing this flood elevation 13 from the FEMA flood map service center, which you can sort of see here in this thinner line type. The new elevation 13 or the on-ground surveyed elevation 13 is shown in this sort of thicker dashed line type here. See, you can follow the 13s sort of all the way across there. So that was the first change. The second change was the commission had some current concerns of our top of coastal bank line. So using the Massachusetts Wetland Program Policy 92-1, which for our case, let me see if I can pull it up here. There are certain figures I used to determine our top of coastal bank. And in our case, figure 2 here is what is applicable for this project, which basically states top of coastal bank is where the slope of the bank changes from greater than 4:1 to less than 4:1. Going back to here, I have 2 cross sections here. You have cross section AA shown right here. And as you can see, the slope kind of goes up this way at greater than 4:1, and then it drops more level to less than 4:1. Then it actually goes back up. I'm calling this location here, top of bank, which would basically be about this area on the plan. The reason why I'm calling that top of bank is because if you can see on both the right and left side of the existing dwelling here, the slope is less than 4:1. Assuming at some point there was some grading done right at the base of the home here for some sort of walkout. So that's why you'll see this sort of run back up at a slope that looks like it's greater than 4:1. Moving over to the other side of the site, we have section BB. And this one is a little more defined. You'll notice it goes very steep at greater than 4:1 and then immediately levels out to less than 4:1. So that's sort of the general concept of how we came up with this smaller dashed line here. I don't know if I can highlight that, but right here. So this sort of thing, if that helps at all. Moving on, we also added a flag during the site walk, which is this wetland flag SM13A, something that the commission caught and thought should be added to the plan. Lastly, we were originally calling the salt marsh, which is sort of depicted with this gray dashed line here, as mean high water. That was incorrect. We have since added a contour at elevation 4.5, which you can see right here, which is mean high water in that area. And that is where we derived our 100 inner riparian zone and 200 outer riparian zone. Previously, it was derived from this salt marsh line. So we made that correction to the plan. In addition, you'll notice this 100-foot resource area buffer. I have a note here basically explaining that. And it's a combination of the bordering vegetated wetland, the mean high water, and the top of coastal bank in the most conservative form. So basically, you'll see it's an offset of it's a 100-foot offset of the top of coastal bank here. It then sort of shifts over to be an 100-foot offset of the wetland, and also a 100-foot offset of the wetland here. And that's pretty much it. I'll open up to any questions.
Okay, thank you. Benjamin.
I think I'm all right with it. I think there's like an arrow pointing to the eastern bordering vegetated wetland, and then there's a second one in front of the existing dwelling, correct, Sam?
Yes, right here in this
Yeah,
sort
exactly.
of gray solid line.
Yeah, I'm just, yeah, so you only have a bordering vegetated wetland going to the other one, and like I understand it's the same line type.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if for clarity it would be good to have a second line going to that one as well, just so that future iterations of the commission, if need be, have a very clear plan. That's also a bordering vegetated wetland, because I don't see a label.
Oh, a label.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, like I understand that you're okay, that line type is for BVWs.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it might be good to explicitly call that out as a BVW.
Sure.
Okay, Daniel?
I don't really have anything to contribute here. I think it looks fairly accurate to me.
Okay. Frank?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Peter?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I'm with Ben in the sense that there's a lot of lines and it is not easy to read. I don't know how to make it easy to read, obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot going on for sure.
There's a lot going on. I also think that while it is non-jurisdictional, I do think it might be useful to call out the edge of marsh, in a formal sense too, just because, you've got that line already, in the system, and it might be useful to highlight it so that the confusion between mean high water and marsh, isn't repeated in the future, kind of to Ben's point. But that's not going to help. That's not going to help make it less confusing. So that might not be a full suggestion.
I am differentiating right here. Again, there's just a lot of stuff going on. I do label this gray dashed line as salt marsh. I also label over here this line as mean high water.
Right.
But again, there's a lot going on.
The thing I was talking about is already there, and I still couldn't see it, even after you walked me through it. Yeah, does anybody have a thought to that? Color coding or like getting this into 15 different colors? I mean, maybe the problem is just that it's black and white. I don't know.
I mean, I'm kind of Brian. There's a lot going on. It kind of is what it is, though, and the rest are all contiguous lines that once you find that label, you can follow it. But
yeah,
that's where I was on it. It is just a lot between all the flagging and everything else. Yep. A lot of lines.
all right. So aside from the display, we don't have any contributions regarding its accuracy, correct? That nobody's saying anything there. Sam, did you hear anything from Mary in regard to this item?
Not on this latest iteration. She did have a couple comments when the last one came out, that a couple things needed to be changed, and I believe those have been addressed at her request. So, and she did say she was going to review it again and let me know if it looked okay. I haven't heard anything from her since then. That was at 11 o'clock this morning. So,
Okay.
it seems like she may be all set.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like in that case we are ready for a vote on this.
I'm sorry, but before we do that, Frank, is that your hand raised up there?
No, it was a mistake. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
But that being said, is there anybody here for this particular project that would like to contribute? Once and twice. Okay. So yeah, pleasure of the board. Who'd like to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept as is.
And a second?
Second,
Thank you. All right, Benjamin?
Yeah,
Thank you. Dan,
yes,
Frank,
Yes.
and Pete.
Yes.
Thank you. I will also vote in the affirmative, even though obviously I have trouble reading it. There you go. All right, great. So yeah, Sam, get them their paperwork and we'll call it good.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sam, for, yeah, tolerating the artistic critiques. So next item on the agenda, where are we?
Sorry,
we
guys, I
wanna
have,
move. You gotta go, Frank?
yes, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming. We're gonna move some things around. We've had a few requests. We're gonna jump down to other
I think-
business. The trustee.
Sorry, I think
What?
actually, Tom might be here. Are you all set to go, Tom?
I am. If we can do Bittersweet first, though, between my two hearings, that, yeah, I was able to get through the report pretty quickly, so I appreciate.
Okay.
Okay, well, Sam, you have here marked that you'd like to do the trustees number 3.
Yes, that was before Tom showed up, so that's all set. That reorganization was because I thought Tom wasn't gonna be here, so we can go back to normal now.
Yep.
Okay, so
I had
we're gonna
been-
go to Gage 40 at 7 Bittersweet. We don't have a DEP number yet. We're gonna stick to the order as printed. This is a notice of intent for the construction of a new single-family home with septic and associated site work. So, Mr. Foley and/or representative.
That would be me. So Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental Consulting. I believe Gage Foley's on as well, and Steve Sawyer, who's the engineer who did the plan, is also on. If I can share my screen. So this is Bittersweet Lane. I don't know if you guys know where it is. It's sort of right near the center area there. And this is a family subdivision that was done by Gage's grandfather, who's down the end, and Gage's father built the home at 9 Bittersweet, and basically this is the last remaining lot of that subdivision. There's we'll go to the plans in a minute, but there's sort of a wetland complex right up here that then goes into pipes, daylights a little bit, and then flows off somewhere in pipes further down the road. So to kind of give you an idea of where that location is in a bigger picture, you know, basically you're talking right off here, again, near the town center. Okay, so this is a 2021, aerial photograph of the site. There's basically this area here, the wetlands. There's a little area of daylighted wetlands right back in here. And then there's a pipe, and then there's wetlands that kind of extend through here. The wetlands are mostly edge of fill. And I will kind of show you. So here's that kind of daylighted wetland area. And again, wetlands over here. And there's a pipe that runs from this wetland system down into here and another pipe that runs out here. Basically, we're proposing a septic system that is 50 feet off the wetlands. The edge of grading does get a little closer. And then a driveway, a garage, you know, a house with an attached garage off further away. The driveway is at the edge of the driveway that's closest is at about 50 feet from wetland. And again, the septic field itself is 50 feet from wetland, and the grading does get a little bit closer, but we're still more than 25 feet from wetland with that grading. It's a relatively simple buffer zone project, and it's one that will allow Gage to kind of move into the family neighborhood and you know, have his family near his other family. So again, Steve Sawyer's here to answer any questions about grading and about septic and all that. He has the septic was designed, and I believe the town's engineer came out and witnessed the test pits and the whole 9 yards. We have erosion control to prevent any kind of impact to the wetlands. And again, it's relatively straightforward. So I guess we'll open it up to any questions and then see what the pleasure of the commission is. I know we don't have a number yet, so we will have to continue to the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Tom. Let's go around backwards for fun this time. Pete, what do you see?
So this is more of an introduction than, or is the hearing actually open since we don't have a number?
If I can try to answer that, you're obligated to open the hearing within 21 days. This is an opening of a hearing. It's just you can't take action until the number is issued. So you can't vote to approve or deny till the number comes out. But this is a full-fledged hearing.
Okay, thanks. So with regards to the septic location, you're within 25 feet. Sam, how is that coming in with the regulation? Is that right on it?
Steve, do you want to?
Hi, Peter, I can answer that. So
Yep.
the regulations are that the field itself has to be more 50 feet or more from a wetland. The grading and accessory grading can be within 50. So the grading is actually just 25. We're outside the 25 with the grading.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, Pete, you good?
Brian, just to let you know, Mary did just come in as this one was starting, so she is here now, and I believe she did have some comments on that, so make sure we don't miss her.
Great, thanks for the heads up, Sam. All right, so Pete, presuming you're good, we'll go to Mary on that note.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Mary.
My microphone isn't working right now. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're
Yep.
so clear. It's actually the best sound all night.
Okay. My only comment was just about the wetland boundary. I have not looked at it, but there is more wetland shown on the Mass GIS mapping than what is shown on this plan. So just wanted to, probably makes sense for us to take a look at this without the snow cover, and we do have time without a file number to be able to do that. So that's my thought, was I would like to take a look at it. And the other question is, has it received Board of Health approval? Did you already mention that?
Steve, where are you at with Board of Health?
Mary, actually, no, I haven't. I wanted to, before I submitted a formal plan to Board of Health, I did want to get at least feedback from conservation in case I had to make some adjustments due to the conservation review.
Okay, do you have options for moving the field further away from the wetland if you need to?
Yeah, we could slide it probably about 15 feet or so.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, further the better from our point of view, so.
All right, I can, okay.
And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the field is going to be in an easement area on the other lot, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So we are, where it's a family and it's basically a friendly, they have control of all 3 lots. We are providing a portion of the field will be on lot number 9. And there'll be an exclusive easement for the septic provided for lot number 7. Then also what I also wanted to mention is we are coming in, we're going to expand. Right now, there's a common driveway that services 7 and 9. And we'll be adding 11 to this. Granted, we wouldn't need to, we could provide an easement and provide a separate driveway, but it doesn't make sense. We're actually in the process of submitting that. That's a special permit with the planning board. So there's another piece of the puzzle here. But we think it should be a straightforward special permit for the common driveway.
Right. So the reason I mentioned that, Mary, is I think we were trying to keep as much on lot as possible, but if we, we just would have to extend the easement area and slide it over.
Yep. And the regulations require that other local permits that are required be applied for. It's, at least be applied for at the time you file. So will be looking for those as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get moving on
Understood.
those. I think what we'd like to do is, as soon as we do have melt, is get that site visit conducted so that maybe we can be back at the next meeting.
Yep. How long ago was it flagged?
It was flagged. I actually did it in two chunks, sort of 2021. And I started it, and then Delta came, and I think it was Delta. It was one of those things which stopped me doing field work for a little bit, and then I went back to it. Yeah, but it was back over the summer.
Yeah, just as long as the
But actually,
flags are
Mary,
still there.
part of it, I think Tom got out there, did some preliminary work so we could get some test pits done for the septic. Because really the key was if we couldn't find soils, there was no need to move any further. And we had Alex Parker, who is probably one of the better evaluators in the area. He did the soil testing on site, and we found a good location for the system.
Right.
Then as to note, the groundwater is about 42 inches below grade. Seasonal high, that is.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Anything else, Mary? Just the wetland line.
That's it for now.
Okay. Thank you. Frank left. Daniel.
Yeah, I'm just sort of curious about all these pipes interconnecting these wetlands, what the condition of them is, whether they might need replacement in the future and be underneath the septic system or something like that. Whether there's any flooding component that might cause problems, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So those pipes seem to be functioning well. They don't seem to get an awful lot of water. I think this is ultimately in the system that back before, man alterations, I think it drained the pond and, up in the green there, and then flowed into a wetland system that was up at the corner, and then flowed into the wetland system that is pretty extensive on this lot at the eastern end, and then kind of made its way through the site. I have not seen flowing water, out there, but I haven't seen flowing water upstream of the first pipe. So I don't, the pipes on site look to be in decent shape.
And we can take a look at that site walk.
Yep.
I agree, Dan, and it's shown as a perennial stream on the USGS map.
Yeah, I'll make a point. There's a couple locations in Newbury where they show perennial streams that don't seem to exist. This being one of them. I'll actually, between now and the next meeting, I'll document 4 days of no flow. I'm pretty confident it's not flowing because I just haven't seen it flow when I've been out there. several times. And Steve, I don't think you've seen water flowing. You were out there a bunch of times.
I have not. The few times, I think it's 3 or 4 times I've been on site, I have not seen flow.
Yeah, but just for the record, I probably ought to do the four consecutive days with photographs.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, nice, good eyes there. Benjamin, what do you think?
Yeah, I just second with Dan and Mary saying that the first thing I did was zoom out on the Mass GIS. There's a perennial stream and it goes and feeds into the little river. So that's probably historically what was happening. And yeah, is there a basement involved with this? You said the water is 42 inches below grade. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so actually, if you notice, if you look at the grading plan, I don't know, Tom, if you can zoom in a bit around the house.
Yeah.
So the first floor on this will have to be set, about 5.5, 6 feet above grade. So it'll be sort of a semi walkout. What we have is we'll grade up in front to hide the basement, blend it in. And there'll be 4 risers from the garage up into the first floor. And then in the back, the basement it'll be a semi walkout with the basement about 2.5, 3 feet below grade. So it is lifted up some out to keep the basement out of the groundwater.
Okay, yeah. Yep, okay.
Yep.
And Mary, just
Okay.
another point on that stream. I suspect that some drainage programs may have been done with the stormwater in that area, and it may have been redirected down Parker, because it looks like there's a pretty good channel coming off the Parker Street area.
Okay.
Okay. I think you've got enough feedback. I think we all want to go out and have a look, and we'll see if anything else comes out of that. So, what does the weather look like in terms of when we might be able to do this, and then sort of push out for what date we might want to do a continuance until?
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the weather. That we may want to delegate it into Sam's good hands to choose a date once we get snow melt, but let me see what we've got.
Right.
Saturday
we need
is
to continue to the date. That's all. So
Yeah.
I want to.
Okay, so Saturday and Sunday, 39, 48, frozen mix. Next week, we've got rain, 55 on Monday, 45 on Tuesday. I think we may be able to do something. Next Wednesday looks sunny, so next Wednesday might be a possibility if we think we'd get enough melt, but I would want to, confirm Monday or Tuesday with Sam, or we could push it out further, but then, there's a frozen mix coming after that, so who knows?
I can't do Wednesday,
then-
but I could do Thursday, Friday, over the weekend. So
Do you want to, why don't we shoot for Thursday morning with, we may call it off on the count of still snow cover, but how would that work, Mary?
Thursday, the 10th,
Yeah.
that's fine.
What's a good time for folks?
Here, rather than doing it that way, let's switch it just a little bit, because to your point about the weather,
Right.
if you and Mary, if you guys work it out amongst yourselves, and just let us know some options through Sam, that
Okay.
might work better. Just because, if it turns out that the morning is muddy and the afternoon is sleety, but the next, right, like if we're taking this as touch and go, maybe we should just do a continuance until the next meeting. We can do email scheduling, and if it fails, then
Okay.
we'll just do a formal continuance at the next meeting.
All right, so let's do that. Once you've heard, or have you already checked in to see if any abutters are there? We can push off and ask for the continuance to the next meeting. and go from there.
And on that note, anybody, any abutters, any members of the public, anybody here to chime in on this one? Going once, going twice. Okay. Yeah, so could we have a motion from the board, you know, to continue to the next one?
We'll move to continue to April 5th at 7 p.m.
All right. Thank
Second.
you, Benjamin. Thank you, Mary. Roll call, Ben.
Yep.
Dan,
Yes,
Mary,
Yes,
Peter.
Yes.
And we'll also vote yes. And yeah,
Thank
we'll
you
just
very
sort
much.
of schedule it as we can.
Okay,
So what's our next one? Is this you too, Tom? Let's see.
Yep.
Ben Laguerre, 10 10th Street, no DEP number, a notice of intent to replace 2 single-family homes on the existing lot, one of which was destroyed by fire, with new single-family homes constructed on piles.
good evening. Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental Consulting, here on behalf of Ben Laguerre. The property on 10th Street had 2 structures. The structure in the rear was damaged by fire in 2019 and demolished in 2020. And Sam has let me know that there's actually an outstanding order of conditions on the demolition, so we'll have to come in with a COC for that as well for the next hearing.
All right, so then,
So let me just,
What-
sorry.
yeah, that's a little complicated.
Yeah, no, I haven't deleted all my non-graphic stuff, so I'm just gonna have to flip past that narrative part. So we're on Plum Island, Barrier Beach, Coastal Dune, roughly in the area where that arrow is located, off 10th Street. So again, there's a 2019 photo. I don't know if this is before or after fire, but this is before demolition. This is the site in 2021. I'll also show you the floodplain. It is not located within the floodplain. It's actually outside flood. It's not even within the mapped zone X. So the difference between the shaded zone X and the non-shaded is the shaded is actually a 500-year flood. There's AE 13 and VE off towards the ocean, but this area here is outside the flood. So it's technically X zone, but it's not modeled to be within a floodplain. So this is the remaining house at the street. I put this aerial in here just to kind of, again, document this, the prior structure. There's a large gravel driveway with parking. There are still some demo debris that are remaining on site from when the structure was removed. There's not a lot, but just the occasional brick and cinder block. This is the depression from where the building was removed. And this is a view from that area back towards the street. So let me go to what's proposed. And this was actually supposed to have gone into zoning by now. The attorney who's handling it is actually away this week, so it will be going into zoning before your next hearing. So what we're proposing are 2 structures elevated on piles, brought to be more conforming with zoning setbacks further away from the property line, elevated on piles, parking underneath, and the remaining areas outside of what's shown. There's also a small clamshell or pea stone patio area back here. Anything outside those areas, we plan on planting with American beach grass 1 foot on center. Given the sort of nature of the current site, we didn't see any reason to restrict where contractor parking or dumpsters and that type of thing would go. It's pretty obvious that that stuff would be up near the street, but we do have gravel that stretches all the way into the back. So there's not a lot more damage that can be done to the site. Once as part of the demo, we'll remove any of the sort of bricks and other material that's kind of scattered around the back. We will remove in full the existing foundation. And if there's any foundation remnants left of the back building, when we do the demo, we can always do a test bit to make sure. We like to know if there's anything there in case when we're driving piles, we hit something. It's always better to just get it out. So that material will be removed as well. It's pretty straightforward. The only thing that makes this more remarkable than other projects is that there are two structures, but it's grandfathered with two structures under zoning. And overall, outside flood, elevating structures, and increasing vegetation on site. So with that, I'd open it
Okay.
up to any questions.
So let's go back to regular alphabetical. Ben, you look thrilled.
I thought
You
Sam
have a
had,
4 a.m. trip in your day somewhere?
no. Doesn't Sam have, do we want to start with Sam on this? Or are we all good?
I mean, I feel like if we can get the feedback generally, because this project has so many other pieces going on, we can give Tom his feedback, broadly speaking, and then we can sort of untangle the, the stepwise with the permits, and which is supposed to go first and which is supposed to go second, and so on.
I have no jurisdictional comments about this.
Okay. Daniel?
I'm having a hard time zooming in on this, but is the driveway bigger than the existing gravel area? I mean, it looks like there's and this confused me a little bit too, because you've got building destroyed, proposed is 0. You've got 2 buildings. I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, I will have to check with Everett and see what's up with that. I think that's an error. Although no, so here's I think what's going on is our total building square footage is 1208. These are relatively small structures. So what's happening is our prior structures were 470 plus 866. And that's going to go to 1208. So he's just showing that there's an 866 square foot building that you won't see on the site today, right? It's a little weird the way this 0 is here, but the 1208 is the total of both structures. So with regard to the gravel area, if you look at where was that? I was just looking at it. Driveway, walkway, 1784 to 1902. There's a slight increase. I believe that is mainly due to that patio area. We can, if that's an issue, we could certainly look at how we might bring that down a little bit, but I think we may even be able to fit within that 1784 number.
Yeah, I'm just, I think what I was seeing is on the east side of the driveway, there's some brush area or something. Again, I don't have it in front of me now, but
Right.
Closer to the road, closer to 10th Street.
In this area, hold on, let me.
That whole stripe along the side. I'm just sort of wondering why, if it's going away, why it's going away.
Okay, so I think you're looking at this area here.
Maybe, but I'm just looking at the plan actually, and
Right.
But I think we've discovered there may be some work needed on that table. Maybe you
Yeah.
can tune that up. I'm certain if you add to the driveway, you may be able to show us the planting, compensatory planting.
Right, right.
The
So
mitigation.
I think, right, I think what you're looking at is in this area here, and some of it may not be on site. I'm gonna clarify the language on that table, but the numbers appear to be right. So we can look and make sure that if any of that scrubby vegetation is in this area, that it actually gets shown. It shows as grass, low natural vegetation. And I think what they were looking at doing is providing some room for a car to kind of come out and be able to kind of turn around in here to get out, as opposed to backing all the way out to the street, and to give a little bit more room, for two structures on one lot, for cars.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. I think if that table could be made a little bit more clear what's going on, that would be helpful to me. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Mary, what do you got?
Yeah, just following up on Dan's comments, I agree, and I think that maybe the driveway can be made a little smaller. That seems like excessive for what's needed. You can still create a back out area there with a thumbnail kind of, and allow some more opportunity for planting. I'd like to see more areas that are available for greening up. I do appreciate that the buildings would be, conforming and putting up on pilings, but it's a little hard to tell on the table whether you've got a net reduction in lot coverage or not, from how it's presented. So some clarification on that would be helpful.
Right.
And then as far as the permitting, administrative items, I don't think we should issue an order of conditions for anything that has an outstanding order of conditions on it until we get a certificate of compliance. So we'd like to see that filed prior to the next hearing so that we can assess whether or not that prior order has been complied with. And I think that is it for me.
Yeah, and we only
Okay.
became aware of that outstanding order today, and we'll be
Yep.
getting the COC.
Sure. Yep. And also if you do need any other local approvals, that you would apply for those as well.
Right. As I indicated, I had expected the zoning filing to be in before the hearing tonight, and the schedule with the attorney was such that it actually
Yep.
got late. So it'll be early next week, well before your next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Right,
believe the deadline for the
and-
ZBA filing is next Thursday, at 4 PM, I think, so.
Okay. You good, Mary?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Pete,
I'm good, thank you.
okay. I think my commentary, beyond agreeing with everybody, is just I'd like to see, the limit of work and the, staging and where the dumpster is going to go, as well. I don't think I see that on these plans, Tom. Do I?
No, and I think I mentioned in my presentation that given the fact, and I suppose we could put something wrapped around those two shrub areas, or the two vegetated areas that are shown, up in here and here. But in reality, the site, it is well worn, so to speak. And so there's an awful lot of area that can be used for contractor parking and dumpster areas without having any harm to the resource area. But we can look at putting some limit of work, and certainly putting some limit of work fencing along the property lines as well, just to, make it clear so we don't encroach.
Okay. And based on everything, I don't know, nobody's mentioned wanting a site visit, but, considering the unusuality, if I'm allowed to make up words, we might want to go have a look too, but, we can talk about that a little more in a little bit. Sam, is there anything you'd like to add to the discussion at this point?
I think we should get the public comment because we have had a hand raised. And I think anything that I'm going to have to say is probably going to be a question that they have. So just for the sake of getting their comments and questions on the record before I start answering them, I think we should let them have their chance.
Sam, maybe rather, let's take that in reverse, because if you already have a few, I mean, if you've got comments that you know that are relevant, you know, just get them out now, and then, you know, then they're out already. And we can, you know, move on from them and they can ask questions in response to what you said already.
Okay. All right, so we did get a couple concerns that were raised from some of the abutters and their attorney. So I guess there was a concern about the foundation from the home that had burned down. There was some question maybe about a foundation still being out there. There is no foundation. The photos that are in the notice of intent application that Tom filed show all sand, and I did go out there. I have been out there a couple times to take a look at it, and I went out there today to confirm it just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything, and I poked around a little bit. There is no foundation from the demolished house. I know Tom had mentioned that there is still a little bit of debris out there, and I couldn't see any because it was all covered in snow. But I mean, a foundation hole is pretty apparent, pretty obvious to see out there, and everything that I saw out there was sand. So there isn't anything there. I believe there was some concern about the lot line as well. And this a comment that was brought up by Mary when I sent out some of the concerns earlier was that, you know, we have a plan that has been drawn up and signed and stamped by a professional land surveyor. So it's an engineered plan. We kind of have to take that as being accurate. So that isn't, I mean, and that's not really an issue that we can even really deal with. That's more of any lot line issues are more of a planning and zoning concern that would have to be something that I believe would be taken up at that point. As Tom said, the old order condition just needs a COC or COC requested. And as long as I can get that request in by hopefully the end of next week, I can get out there and do an inspection for it. And we can get that one all taken care of. The ZBA filing is coming in eventually. That technically should have been done before this application came in, but it is coming down. I do know that Doug has requested the abutters list for zoning, so that's coming down soon. And that's all I got.
Okay, thanks for that, Sam. Turning to Jean Novak, had their hand up first. So Jean, what's on your mind?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I prefer if Paul spoke first, so, and then I could go second, if that's okay.
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you.
Just both of you, if you don't mind, you know, do for the record, a full introduction, if you will.
Sure.
Paul, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Paul Novak. I'm an attorney representing the direct abutter on the rear of the property and also on a butter over on 10 13th Street. 10th 13 10th Street. The concern here is twofold. First of all, the plans that were submitted, and I realize this is early on, we just got this with notice, I think, last week. So we tried to evaluate the project based on what was shown on the plans, and they are inadequate as far as there is no architectural profile. There are no floor dimensions that we can tell whether or not there is an increase on both the building coverage and the lot coverage. And the reason we have a concern here is that my client purchased that land, that lot behind this immediate structure, from the town of Newbury. And when they purchased it from the town of Newbury, they found that there was an encroachment. Upon further investigation, they found out that there was a massive addition on the entire back of this house that was never permitted legally by the town of Newbury, nor the building department. There's absolutely no records that we were able to obtain from the town. So the reason that's relevant at this board level, it's also relevant, I agree, at both Board of Appeals. And if it goes further, we'd like to get along and try, my client would like to get this resolved. But at this point, we just want to make sure that the proposed project is in compliance with the legal structures that were on the lot. I realize the engineer has no knowledge of this because he probably didn't do a historical search. But what basically happened here is there's a 12-foot by 26-foot addition that was on the rear of the property, and the Google Maps will display this also, that was never permitted. So our position is where there was never a building permit taken out, and this was an illegal, basically, construction, that portion of the dwelling should not be considered with respect to qualifying on the PIOD. There is absolutely zero grandfathering by the Massachusetts general laws for a structure that is not basically permitted. It was never legally permitted. And the town, whether the town looked the other way, we understood that there was an official who worked for the town and that's why it was never legally permitted at that point. So in any event, the reason we're bringing this up is when I did the quick numbers, and I did the numbers off of what was filed so far, and I agree that table needs to be clarified, but the table, if you look at the square footage, and I may be misinterpreting because I couldn't see the new proposed dwellings, but it appeared that they were significantly greater. I had calculated roughly under the 25% that's allowed for building, that the existing structure with the illegal addition was 27%, and that without the legal addition, okay, it would be approximately 23%. And under the code, it would be basically 25%. From what I took, what was on that plan, and I may be misreading it, it was about 1,678 feet, which would give lot coverage of 0.30. There would be an increase of 5% over the minimum, or I should say the maximum building coverage per lot. The other thing is there's no disclosure here on how many bedrooms are there. On the assessor's notification, there was an indication that the rear structure may have been converted into a two-family dwelling. You'll see that from your own town notes on the assessor's records. With respect to the actual lot coverage, I took the percentages that we had on the plan. I deducted the second floor percentage of square footage of 252 square feet. That brought it down to approximately 1,630 out of the 5,688. That was around, I want to say 29%, 25%. When I took the new calculation, that was basically 2,006 feet of lot coverage. And that's including all of the proposed decks and all, it was closer to 35%. So I think and I know I'm just talking without the facts because the plans don't have the facts on them. I think we need this specifically shown as far as the proposed, structures, as far as this talk about underground, under building parking. This is also going to add significant height to the structures. If it's a full 8-foot on both lots, it's going to be rather congested with a 5,600 square foot lot of going up an additional 1 or 2 stories. None of this is shown on the plan. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board and basically revise the plans to show profiles on the sides, each side of the building, and how many bedrooms are planning for the first dwelling on the first unit. The assessor's records shows one bedroom in the front and 2 bedrooms in the back. That's what I'm seeing on the assessor's plan. So there are a number of issues here. We agree that they're entitled to build. We're not saying they're not entitled to build. We just want to make sure that whatever's proposed here is in compliance with the PIOD based upon the fact that it's not, in fact, grandfathered. And the reason it's not grandfathered, it was never a legally permitted structure. And going to do between now and the next board meetings, both conservation and Board of Appeals, we want to get it resolved. And I think if in fact what Mr. Hughes said tonight is true, and that he's reduced the actual square footage, then there may not be an issue here. Other than the fact that two buildings, basically you're talking 3 stories high on each one of these buildings, is really not going to be that attractable for the neighborhood. It would be I think it would be aesthetically pleasing for the neighbors if in fact they combine these 2 buildings into one building with multiple units in it. It would be more consistent with the residential neighborhood that's up there now and the homes that are there. However, that's, like I say, that's more on the cosmetic or the architectural acceptability. With respect to our concerns, my clients are solely concerned that they comply with the PIOD, given the fact and the unique thing that you probably never had to deal with, that I haven't come across a deal where the structure itself, the grandfathered structure on the rear of the lot was not, the way it's shown on the assessor's map is not accurate. The only plans that are going to be accurate are on what's on record at the town of Newbury, as far as this house was built, I believe in 1930. And I've looked at the building report cards and all. There are no additions beyond that construction. So clearly there was an addition that was made that was never permitted here and does not comply with Mass General laws. With respect to that, like I say, we'll look into that matter and we'll probably have more information for the next hearing, but I would like to see those plans upgraded so we can make a determination as far as the overall compliance with the PIOD district.
All right, Mr. Novak, that was all encompassing and very thorough. I think that summarized things nicely. Okay, so it sounds like there's plenty of conversation for Sam to have with other boards and their representatives and various institutions within the town. And I presume we will receive updates as they are appropriate and Sam has the spaghetti bowl untangled. That being said, any commentary or questions from the board for Mr. Novak? Okay. So then, Paul, we will see where all of that goes. Gene, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, thank you, Brian, and the members of the Conservation Commission, Sam and so forth. Thank you for the opportunity. You guys seem to be doing a great job here. Based on everything I'm seeing here, I'm very curious as to why this proposal is coming in now when there are zoning issues pending that seem quite significant here. I mean, you can see Mr. Hughes's plan. It shows the previous building either on the property line or very close to the back property line. In fact, I think when that door opened, you had to step onto someone else's property. These are serious concerns. And why they're coming in now for approval when they don't have a zoning approval, that just gets me, I'm curious to that. I think there shouldn't even be a vote tonight until the zoning issues are resolved. You admitted yes. But my primary concern is I'm at 13 10th Street. I'm almost across the street. And if folks from out of town don't understand Plum Island in that, we've had some horrific fires down here. There was a fire over on 16th Street, 20th Street that almost lit up the whole neighborhood. Several buildings almost went down. And this proposal is not at all in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. I would encourage Mr. Hughes to reevaluate this and come in with a single building, one building on this lot for a host of reasons. We look at that street and everybody calls it a street. Well, it's actually a right of way. It's a 10-foot right of way. And we all know that vehicles and fire apparatus have very difficult times navigating, Plum Island. And you look at the parking here and you say, okay, well, how much parking? Those are 2 single-family homes. You can have 2 families there. So let's say 2 cars each. There's 4 vehicles. And now we know Plum Island. It's a summer residence. And what happens in the summertime? Well, people go to the beach and your guests come over. So where's everybody going to park? And then on the street, that means congestion and obstruction, okay? And like I say, that's a 10-foot right of way. It shows, you look at it, you can't quite see it, but that's all it really, these really are down here. So like I say, it doesn't seem to meet the intent of the rules and regulations, you know, with the two structures there. So basically, I think that's, and again, the plans and the PIOD, we'd like to look at that much more carefully. But I would suggest, honestly and sincerely, that I would be supportive of a single dwelling and putting these two together in some fashion. Okay, I think that would be better for the entire neighborhood, for fire safety, and better all around. And I honestly think they would probably agree with me. Why they're separating them out like this is just I don't understand that at all, because it could be done in a much better fashion. So I'll leave it at that. And again, I would suggest, I just ask the Conservation Commission not to have a vote until the zoning matters are resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Mr. Chairman?
No, let's not do this, Tom. There's a lot to untangle in the back end.
No, understood. I just wanted to make it clear, perhaps the Novaks didn't hear that I did say that this was going to be continued to the next hearing anyhow. So we're just here to gather the feedback. So no, I don't want to get into a back and forth. We'll certainly take what we've heard and review it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. So then, with that being said, let's have a motion to continue.
Move to continue to April 5th at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Ben.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Roll call. Ben.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks. We'll look forward to seeing where this one goes. All right, where'd my agenda go? Here we go. David Manti, 0 Pine Island Road, Lot 5, DEP number 050-1330, a notice of intent to construct a dock/pier, ramp, and floating dock within Salt Marsh Resource Area and EC, continued from February 1st. Tom, it appears you have requested a continuance to April 5th.
Yes, but we do finally have a proposal coming to the client from an engineer that should be there by the end of today, whether it's made it or not, but it'll be with him today or tomorrow. So we'll finally be able to move forward on the engineered plan. So yeah, we're looking for a continuance, and hopefully we will actually have that update in time for that next hearing.
Great, that sounds like a plan to me. So with that, would anyone like to make a motion for continuing to the 5th?
Move to continue to April 5.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call. Benjamin.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
And Peter.
Yes.
I will also vote yes.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a great night,
Thanks,
guys.
Tom. You too. We move on to other business. The trustees of reservations, Newman Road, Old Town Hill. A presentation of work proposed for corrective maintenance of the causeway off of Newman Road, leading to the Adams pasture. And it looks like Russ is here for the trustees.
I am, yes. Would you like me just to start?
Yeah, and if you don't mind introducing yourself for the record.
Yeah, not at all. Russ Hopping, coastal ecologist for the trustees of reservations, representing the trustees tonight and the project. I can share my screen if that's helpful in terms of showing you a general, very simple. Hopefully you can all see that right now. I can zoom out if that's helpful, but hopefully most of you know what this is. This is Newman Road, and so this is Newman Road here and the little river and the crossing over it. salt marshes with this old gravel road that goes toward, goes and allows us to access the Adams pasture, which is the hay field just on the other side of the marsh. Back in 2003, I believe it was with the smaller crossing that was replaced on Newman Road. At that time, some of the regulators asked for these spillways to be put in along this causeway, and those are all circled in red to allow some sheet flow across the marsh as part of the permitting that was for the crossing, and then also to improve the condition of the marsh. I think it was particularly in some desire for fisheries. Lo and behold, 20 years later or so, those three spillways have subsided. They were excavated and filled with cobble type riprap, fist size, so to speak. Hopefully some of you have walked it and are familiar with it. Over the years, they have subsided, and instead of just allowing the sheet flow through, they're now forming wet spots, particularly during the spring tide cycles, and our pedestrians are trying to walk around them. Thus, it's impacting the salt marsh, is getting trampled, etc. We would like to reestablish the original intent of these as a maintenance project to bring in roughly, it's about 2,520 feet of area that needs to have some of this cobble refreshed. It'd be 6 to 7 tons of cobble that would be added to all 4 of these locations, the 3 in red plus the entrance, which is almost perpetually flooded right now. A similar subsidence has been happening there. We would like to do this in before spring, hopefully in the next month, and it would essentially involve just opening the gate and backing a dump truck with some cobble in it to each of those spots, and then it would be graded so it would have a slight crown to it as the original permitting and design required, that would allow pedestrians to walk through dry-footed, but still allow that sheet flow to happen. And then we would be putting in some stakes and some rope along the edges to keep people onto that new cobble crushed stone and allow the marsh to heal. And that's essentially the project. Hopefully you will agree that it's maintenance and we wouldn't need to file. That's ultimately, our request.
Yeah, this
All right,
one has already has already been administratively approved. I believe this was discussed about a year ago now, in March, that Russ had reached out to Bill, the former agent, and gotten some feedback from the commission at the time, and this was administratively approved as maintenance. So.
All right. Thank you both. Ben, what do you see? Feel good about it?
Yeah, I don't have anything jumping out at me. Russ, I'm sorry, did I miss it? Did you say how you would get, we're talking about several tons of material, how you were getting that material back to those 2 swales?
Yeah, so the ideal would be so we don't have to have it dumped somewhere and then move it back and forth with a tractor with a bucket. It would be desirable just to back the truck in and dump the first portion, at number 3 you see here, so the furthest away, and then continue that all the way out, and then use the tractor to and or by hand to level it and create that crown. We would not be going anywhere other than the existing dirt road.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, it's certainly a worthwhile thing to do, and it is maintenance, in my opinion. I just, I think my only concern I might have is just what are the ground conditions when this work is going to be done? And, is the roadway capable of sustaining a heavy dump truck or, will there be any impacts? I would presume that if there was some problems, you guys would revise your modus operandi, but that's my only real concern.
Yeah, Dan, if so, for example, if the truck started to back in and started to sink away, we would stop.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's like some, it might be better to wait until we had dry conditions, or certainly avoid spring tides and that sort of thing.
Definitely avoiding spring tides. I can certainly explore that. The other option may be during the coldest opportunity, I suppose, although that window's closing for sure. It's a pretty tough road, other than where in those three spots were excavated as well to lower their elevation, to put the stone in originally. It's used for, heavy equipment in terms of, farming implements and things like that. As far as I know, we've never had a problem. I can certainly wait till we have drier conditions, if that's what the commission would like.
Thank you.
The only reason I said March, Dan, was because that's within our fiscal year. So we were hoping to get the work done while we still were in our fiscal year.
Yeah, let's take that idea, Dan, and see, what everybody else has to say. Anything else on your mind, though, before we keep going?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Mary?
I'm abstaining from this discussion since the trustees are a client.
Fair enough. Peter?
First, Russ, I want to just express my appreciation to the trustees and to this property. I walked it today. I just love it. I think it's beautiful, and I can appreciate the need to do this. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have heard from others as well, obviously, that scenario there. It's a very popular walk, and even along the roadside where people are pulling off. So we thought this was a reasonable first step.
My only comment, actually, you just sort of touched upon it a little bit. Is there any, from a maintenance perspective, is there any thought on all of the pulling off that presumably is expanding the footprint of your entry area?
So initially, as I understood, it was right before my time for this, but the original project included putting in some wooden, I guess, balustrades or bollards, so to speak, at that entrance to prevent that. Obviously, within that entire footprint, within those, we have seen parking. We've tried to put no parking signs, people ignore it. Our hope is that the crushed stone at that point will at least improve the specific conditions at that site. We would welcome, I think, any opportunity to restrict parking along that section of the road. I'm not sure how much more we could do other than put some of the posts and rope up at that site, as well as we were proposing along 1, 2, and 3 to keep people from walking out into the marsh. Certainly willing to
Sam, have you happened to have any conversations with anybody in town regarding this issue of sort of the overflow parking, if you will?
I have not.
Okay. If they're going to be, doing maintenance, and we're going to be keeping this within the maintenance exemptions, it would be good to know if where DPW sort of might want them not to be. the edge of exemption and how that gets into sort of right of ways and, the shoulders of the roads and that kind of thing. Because I think some of those ideas about, say bollards that were mentioned, if we were able to provide clarity in any way, shape, or form, that might be nice. But yeah, Russ, I'm presuming I took your idea and went maybe a little further than you meant to go with it.
Hey,
But,
we're happy to work with, with the town to figure out how to improve the scenario there.
Okay. Well, it sounds like this being a maintenance activity has been, confirmed. Nobody's sort of asking you to come back and do a permit, so that's good. And yeah, from a technical perspective, if we don't need to vote on this, correct? This is just informative.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't need
This
to
was
take
more
any
to
action.
this was more to just get kind of as a base cover to get it on the record that yes, the commission is aware that the work's being done and we're all good with it, so that, if anybody happens to watch the video and sees that we've gone through this, they don't have to call my office and say, people are dumping rocks in the marsh. Yes, yes, they are.
Yep. Happy to get it on the record.
All right. Well, then with that, I suppose, Russ, unless you've got something to add in, or there's a member of the public or the board that wants to throw in a last comment. Yeah, thanks for fixing that path. I will use it frequently.
Well, thank you.
Anytime.
It doesn't look like we have anybody else. We have one other person in the audience, but it doesn't look like they have anything to say, so.
I guess just for clarity on my point, is there a desire for us to wait, or is just simply waiting for drier conditions the extent of the request?
Yeah, I think since I brought that up, I'm not really concerned about it. I mean, I think you have good judgment. But if there's any issues that come up, would you please contact the conservation agent? Bring it to her.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So moving on with our agenda, we have a few items here. We have a extension request from MPM Companies LLC at 170 Orchard Street, DEP 050-1254. This is a request to extend the order of resource area delineation that confirmed accurate delineation for bordering vegetated wetlands and 200-foot riverfront area, continued from February the 1st. The request is to continue until April the 5th.
So that's a request pending a second site visit under better conditions after the warm weather that we had a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, the ground was still frozen, so Bill Manuel requested to put that off again until April, so that hopefully we can get out there when the ground's a little bit softer and check the soils to confirm the wetland lines.
Right. So, anybody want to continue that?
Move to continue to April 5th, 7 p.m.
Thank you, Dan.
Second,
Thank you, Mary. Roll call. Ben,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Mary,
yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. Okay, and it looks like the last item on the agenda is a certificate of compliance for William Cliff at 25 Harvard Way, DEP 050-1266. Sam, is it all done?
Yes, I can call up the file for it, the plans for it and everything, if you'd like to take a look at them. They are all in the Dropbox, but I did go out and do the inspection out there and everything looks pretty good. It does look, it's in very good shape. And when I went out before all of the snow came in, the dune grass plantings and everything looked really good. They look really good in the photos, and you can definitely see, even when they're all brown and crunchy, that they're all still there. So everything did look pretty good out there.
Okay. I'm seeing in the audience we have Mr. Arnold. Are you here for this one?
Yes, I'm here as a representative for the applicant, Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting. We filed this COC. I'm just here if there are any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. So did anybody have a chance to look at any plans? Sam, you want to walk us through the drawings, et cetera, et cetera? What do people want to do here? I believe Sam. I'm disinclined to drag this one out, but
Make a motion to accept the certificate of compliance.
You beat to it, second, Mary.
okay. Roll call. Ben.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Great, grand, good. It's 9 o'clock. Good job, team.
So
Wow.
there's not a meeting on March 15th, is that correct?
We do have a meeting on March 15th. All of the requests for continuances that we got were all requests to continue to April.
Okay.
But as of right now, we only have one thing on the agenda for March 15th, and it's not even a filing, but I'm sure we'll get some. Actually, today was our deadline and I didn't get any filings, so we have one thing to talk about on March 15th, and that's it.
What was the next
If you
bylaw?
can convince this person to postpone it till April, the discussion until April, is it possible that we could not have a meeting on March 15th?
I can reach out to them to see if they would be open to holding off until April, and we can throw that one in there. I know it's a kind of preliminary thing for a town project, so Tracy might actually appreciate it, because I think she was going to have a hard time getting in here on the 15th.
Okay.
So.
All right. So then, Mary, the goal is fastest meeting ever.
Great.
All right. Well, that's great. Unless, Sam, you have any sort of office updates that you are just chomping at the bit, I think we can have a motion to call it.
I think, Dan, did you have a question about the bylaw?
Yeah, I'm just wondering when the next proceeding is on that.
So that's the upcoming special meeting date that we have listed for April 19th. That's going to be our next bylaw workshop. At the moment, we don't have to get too crazy into everything that I'm doing right now, but at the moment I'm writing up an actual draft of regulations, and I'm making some edits to the bylaw draft that we have. Hopefully in the next week or so, I'll be able to finish that up and send it out to you guys for comments from you. And then hopefully by the end of March, I will be able to get those posted on the website for people to review before the next workshop date.
Excellent.
So with the exception of the certificate of compliance, that there's nothing that we need to sign for you now?
There will be, yeah, actually, the 40th Street, 240th Street got approved. You weren't here for that though, so it doesn't matter. And the Marsh Ave and Rad got approved. So those of you who were here for that, I will need signatures at some point. I am going to file both of those online. So I'll be able to file them tomorrow, but I still need the actual hard copy of signatures for them to do the recording at the registry. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
A motion to adjourn. Second.
Oh.
Yes.
Roll call vote. Benjamin,
Yep.
Daniel,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
and Peter.
Okay.
Okay, I will also vote okay. Good night,
Good night, guys.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.